What happens when one of Hollywood's most unpredictable actors sits across from one of daytime TV's most unapologetically outspoken hosts? You're about to see. And trust me, this interview didn't just go off the rails. It detonated. Before we dive in, hit that subscribe button and drop a comment. Because what you're about to hear is absolutely wild. Billy Bob Thornton stepped onto the view set with his trademark quiet intensity, dark sunglasses, stiff posture, that slow, deliberate walk that made everyone sit up a little straighter. The audience applauded politely. He settled into the chair, adjusted his collar, crossed his legs. Whoopi opened with the basics. His new film? The creative process, the usual warm-up, for a moment. Everything felt normal. Then Joy Behar leaned forward with that grin, the one every guest on that show dreads so. "Billy Bob," she said, smiling like she'd just found the perfect spark for a fire. "You've been married 6 times. 6. What keeps pulling you back into marriage?" The studio went still. Billy Bob removed his sunglasses painfully slow and set them on the table. His face remained calm, but his eyes said the question hit a nerve. "Well, Joy," he said, his Arkansas drawl thicker now, "I suppose I could ask why you feel the need to bring up someone's personal life 30 seconds into a conversation, but I'm too polite for that." Nervous laughter fluttered through the crowd. Joy's smile tightened. "It's not personal," she insisted. "It's public record. You're a public figure. Your relationships have been very, very public." "Public record, huh?" he said, nodding. "So that makes anything fair game." "Interesting. Real interesting." Sonny Hostin stepped in, voice softening the tension. "I think what Joy means is that you've been very open about your relationships before. I've been open about my work." Billy Bob cut in, still controlled. "My music. My films. My craft." But somewhere along the way, folks decided that being an actor means giving up your right to privacy. That everything about your life becomes entertainment for people at home. Joy wasn't having it. "But you chose this profession. You chose the spotlight." "I chose to be an actor," Billy Bob said sharply. "I didn't choose to have strangers dissect my relationships on morning TV. Strangers who don't know me, don't know what I've lived through, and frankly have no business asking about it." The room felt like it was holding its breath. Whoopi tried steering back to the film. But Joy pushed ahead. "I think you're being a little sensitive," she said, leaning back, arms crossed. "We ask everyone about their personal lives. That's part of the show." "Sensitive," he repeated, with an edge. "You know what is sensitive, Joy. Calling someone sensitive when they set a boundary. That's a manipulation tactic. I know it, you know it, and everyone watching knows it." Sarah raised her eyebrows. Alyssa shifted forward like she wanted to intervene, but Billy Bob wasn't done. "I came here to talk about the work. Instead, we're playing this game where you tried to bait me into a headline. Well, I'm not playing." Joy let out a laugh, a forced, brittle one. "Nobody's playing games, Billy Bob. We're just having a conversation." "No," he said. "You're having a conversation. I'm being interrogated about my personal life like I'm on trial." "Oh, come on," Joy scoffed, waving a hand. "You're being dramatic. This is a talk show." "Dramatic," he echoed. Then he stood up. The audience gasped loudly. "You want dramatic, Joy?" "Dramatic is me trying to have a respectful conversation while you poke and prod, hoping I blow up." "Well, congratulations. You got your moment. Sit down," Joy snapped. "You're being ridiculous." "Ridiculous?" His voice rose for the first time. "I'm ridiculous for wanting basic respect, for wanting to talk about my work instead of the tabloid version of my life. That's ridiculous to you?" Whoopi stood, hands up. "Let's all just breathe for a second. Billy Bob, please sit. Joy, let's move on. but neither heard her. They were locked in. Joy pointed at him. "You know what your problem is. You can't handle a strong woman asking tough questions. That's what this is really about." Billy Bob's jaw tightened hard. "Don't you dare turn this into that," he said, low and dangerous. "Don't you dare turn this into gender when the truth is simple. This is about respect." "I've worked with some of the strongest women in this industry," Billy Bob said, voice low and steady. "Women I admire. Women I respect. This has nothing to do with you being a woman, and everything to do with you being rude." The audience froze. You could hear cameras worry, crew members shifting, someone in the back clearing their throat a little too loudly. Rude. Joy snapped. She stood up, matching his energy, chin lifted like a challenge. "I'm rude. I'm doing my job. You're the one who came on this show with an attitude? I came on this show to promote my film," Billy Bob said, now speaking with a dangerous calm that felt more threatening than shouting. "I came here as a guest, and guests, Joy," he paused, staring straight at her, "are supposed to be treated with hospitality. But you wouldn't know anything about that, would you? That's enough." Whoopi stepped between them, hands up, her voice ringing across the studio. "We're going to break. Now," but the explosion had already happened. Billy Bob grabbed his sunglasses off the table and headed toward the exit. A producer rushed to intercept him, but he brushed past without a word. "Walk off then," Joy yelled after him. "Run away. That's mature." Billy Bob stopped at the edge of the set, turned back slowly. "You want mature, Joy," he said. "Mature is knowing when to stop pushing someone. Mature is respecting boundaries. Mature is not treating your guests like props for your amusement. But I guess, at your age, if you haven't learned that yet, you're not going to." The audience gasped, an entire room inhaling at once. Joy's face turned crimson. "Get him out of here," she hissed at the producers. "Get him off my stage. Your stage." Billy Bob laughed, a sharp, bitter sound. "This isn't your stage. This is a TV studio where you happen to work. And I'm leaving because I have better things to do than be disrespected by someone who thinks being on TV gives them the right to say whatever they want to whoever they want." Alyssa pushed her chair forward. "Billy Bob, please let's just talk it through," but he was already gone, disappearing off camera. His footsteps echoed in a silence so heavy it felt physical. Joy stood stiff, arms crossed, furious. Whoopi dropped her head into her hands. The cameras lingered awkwardly until someone finally shouted, "Cut." When they returned from commercial, Billy Bob's chair sat empty. Whoopi addressed the audience with a tight, practiced smile, apologizing for what had just unfolded. Joy stared straight at the camera, chin high, offering no apology whatsoever. "Sometimes guests come on the show unprepared for real questions," she said. "And that's not our fault." The audience didn't know whether to clap or stay silent. Most chose silence. The 3-minute commercial break felt like an eternity. Producers buzzed frantically into headsets. Whoopi whispered intensely with one of them. Sarah and Sunny sat frozen, both looking like they wanted to sink into the floor. Alyssa couldn't stop glancing at the exit where Billy Bob had disappeared. Joy sat rigid at the table, muttering to herself, arms locked across her chest. Finally, she spoke loud enough for everyone to hear. "I'm not apologizing. I didn't do anything wrong. No one's asking you to," Whoopi said, though her tone made it clear she wished Joy would. "He's the one who walked off," Joy continued. "He's the one who couldn't handle a basic question. Why is everyone acting like I'm the problem here?" Before anyone could answer, a commotion stirred backstage. Heads turned. Billy Bob Thornton stepped back onto the set. A producer followed him, looking both relieved and completely bewildered. The audience shifted, whispering, unsure whether they should clap or just sit frozen. Billy Bob didn't sit. He stayed at the edge of the stage, eyes locked on Joy. "I came back," he said evenly, "because I don't want anyone thinking I ran away. I finish what I start." Joy lifted her eyebrows. "Oh, so now you want to talk. Now that you've made your big dramatic exit and got all the attention you wanted." "I got everyone's attention," he repeated, almost laughing. "Joy, you've been trying to provoke me since the second I sat down, and you succeeded. Congratulations." He took a step closer. "But let's be clear. I didn't come back for you. I came back for the people watching. The ones who might think what just happened is normal. Or okay. It's not." Whoopi stood, trying again to calm things. "Billy Bob, please sit down. Let's talk like adults." He didn't even turn toward her. "You want to know why I got upset? Why I walked off?" He said, eyes fixed on Joy. "Because people like you hide behind a platform, behind a show, behind the cameras, the audience, your co-hosts. And you say things you would never say if it were just you and me alone in a room. That's not true." Joy shot back immediately. "I'd absolutely ask you the same questions in private. I'm not hiding behind anything." "Really?" Billy Bob challenged. "So if we were at a dinner party and you'd just met me, you'd open with a question about my 6 marriages? That's how you'd start a conversation with a stranger?" Joy hesitated, just a flicker. Barely there, but he caught it instantly. "There it is," he said, pointing slightly. "That hesitation. That tells me everything I need to know. You know it was inappropriate. You know it was rude. But you did it anyway because that's what this show does." He took a step toward the table. "It tears people down for entertainment." "We don't tear people down," Sunny cut in, finally finding her voice. "We ask hard questions." "There's a difference." "Hard questions about what, Sunny?" Billy Bob turned to her, eyes sharp. "About my work. The craft, the film." "No." He shook his head. "Hard questions about my personal relationships which have nothing to do with why I'm here. That's not journalism. That's gossip. It's not gossip when you put it out there." Joy shot back. "You've talked about your marriages in interviews. You wrote about them in your book." "I wrote about my experiences," Billy Bob corrected, voice steady but burning. "My growth. My mistakes. I wrote them in the context of my journey as a person and an artist. I didn't write them so a talk show host could weaponize them against me years later." The audience sat forward, locked in, eyes ping-ponging between them. Some nodded with him, some with her. The room crackled with tension. Weaponize. Joy laughed, but it wasn't real. It was brittle. "Oh, please. You're being dramatic. I asked you one question." "One question that turned into another," he said. "And another. And when I tried to redirect the conversation, you called me sensitive. When I set a boundary, you called me dramatic. When I tried to leave, you mocked me." He leaned in slightly. "At what point, Joy, do you take responsibility for the atmosphere you create?" Joy rose from her chair, standing toe-to-toe with him. "I take responsibility for doing my job," she snapped. "For asking questions our audience wants answered. I don't take responsibility for your inability to handle a normal interview." "Normal interview?" Billy Bob echoed, almost laughing at the absurdity. "You keep saying that. As if ambushing someone with personal questions is normal. As if gaslighting them when they object is normal. Gaslighting?" Joy's voice shot upward. "Now I'm gaslighting you. Do you even know what that word means?" "I know exactly what it means." He stepped closer, not looming, but resolute. "It means making someone doubt their own reality. It means telling someone they're overreacting when they have a legitimate grievance. It means twisting a situation so the person who was hurt looks like the aggressor. His eyes didn't leave hers. Sound familiar? Whoopi placed a calming hand on Joy's shoulder. Joy shrugged it off. "I'm not gaslighting anyone," Joy insisted, voice trembling with either anger or adrenaline. "You're spinning this to play the victim." Poor Billy Bob basked about his public relationships on a talk show. "How terrible for you. You're still doing it," he said, quietly, deadly, quietly. "You're still minimizing, still mocking, still pretending this is about my reaction instead of your behavior." Sarah finally spoke, voice soft, tentative. Maybe we can all agree this got heated and both sides know." Billy Bob said firmly, turning to her. "No, Sarah, I appreciate the attempt, but this isn't a both sides moment. I came here as a guest. I was respectful. I talked about my work, and Joy made it personal." "Everything with you is personal," Joy snapped back. "That's the problem. You can't separate yourself from your ego long enough to have a real conversation." Billy Bob let out a laugh, an actual laugh, but with absolutely no humor behind it. "My ego. That's rich, coming from someone who interrupts her guests, talks over them, and then gets offended when they push back." He leaned slightly on the table. "You want to talk about ego, Joy? Let's talk about the ego it takes to think you're entitled to someone's personal trauma just because they're famous." "Trauma," Joy repeated, voice dripping with contempt. "Oh, now your marriages are trauma. You're really milking this, aren't you?" "And there it is," Billy Bob said, pointing at her again. "Right there. The dismissiveness, the mockery. You just proved my point." His voice tightened. "You don't care about me as a person. You don't care about anything I've been through. You care about the spectacle, the moment, having something to talk about after I walk out that door." Alyssa jumped in, eager to soften things. "I think what's important is that we're all passionate people who want meaningful conversations, meaningful conversations." Billy Bob cut in. "Is that what you call this?" He gestured around the table. "Because from where I'm standing, this is a circus. And I'm the clown you brought in to perform." Joy threw her hands up. "If you feel like a clown, that's on you. Nobody made you come here. Nobody forced you into that chair. You wanted the publicity for your film, didn't you? Well, this is what comes with it." "No," Billy Bob said sharply. "No, Joy. Publicity is talking about my work. Publicity is discussing the film, the story, the characters, the process. What you're doing is exploitation. You're taking my past, my pain, my personal life, and turning it into content. And you're doing it with a smile like it's all just fun and games. If you can't handle the heat, get out of the kitchen," Joy snapped. "This is show business. This is how it works." "No," Billy Bob repeated, his voice dropping to a low, dangerous calm. "This is how you work. This is how you've chosen to do your job. But it doesn't have to be this way. Plenty of hosts treat their guests with dignity. Plenty of interviewers know how to ask tough questions without being cruel. You're just not one of them." The silence that fell was thick enough to touch. Joy's face flushed from red to a deep, volatile purple. Her mouth opened, closed, then opened again. No sound came out. Finally, she turned toward the producers off camera. "Are we really going to let him insult me on my own show?" "It's not your show," Billy Bob said quietly. "It's The View. There are 5 of you. Or have you forgotten that? That was the breaking point." Joy spun back around, eyes blazing. "You need to leave. Right now. You've insulted me, insulted this show, and made an absolute fool of yourself on national television." "I'm not leaving," Billy Bob replied steadily, "until I say what I came back to say. And what I need to say is for everyone watching, for anyone who's ever been called difficult for setting boundaries, for anyone who's been labeled sensitive or dramatic just for standing up for themselves. You're not crazy. You're not overreacting. And you don't owe anyone access to your personal pain just because they think they're entitled to it. Oh my God, Joy groaned, rolling her eyes. You're actually giving a speech. This is unbelievable. Let him finish, Whoopi said, and something in her voice, soft, firm, authoritative, stilled the entire room. Even Joy froze. Billy Bob continued, I've been in this industry for decades. I've done hundreds of interviews. And most interviewers, most hosts, understand that there's a line. They understand curiosity isn't an excuse to invade someone's life. They understand that wanting to connect with someone's story doesn't give them permission to dissect every corner of their past. We dissect everyone's life. Joy cut in. That's literally the show. We talk about current events, celebrities, politicians. Why should you be any different? Because I'm sitting right here in front of you, Billy Bob said, voice rising again. That's the difference, Joy. When you talk about someone who isn't in the room, that's commentary. That's analysis. That's your job. But when that person is 3 feet away, looking you in the eye and asking you to respect their boundaries, that's when you need to be a human being first and a talk show host second. Sonny leaned forward, measured and cautious. But Billy Bob, public figures do have a different standard of privacy. The courts have established that. The courts have established what's legal, Billy Bob replied, turning to her. They haven't established what's decent, or what's kind, or what's right. Just because you can do something doesn't mean you should. And just because something is legal doesn't make it ethical. So now we're unethical, Joy said, dripping sarcasm. We're unethical for asking questions, for doing our jobs, for giving our audience what they want. Your audience wants a spectacle, Billy Bob said. Your audience wants drama. Your audience wants to see someone squirm, and you're more than happy to give it to them. But at what cost, Joy? At what cost to the people who sit in this chair? At what cost to your own integrity? My integrity. Joy's voice cracked, betraying the hit. Don't you dare question my integrity. I've been doing this for 20 years. I've interviewed presidents, celebrities, activists. I've covered every major story. I've earned my place at this table. I'm not questioning your experience, Billy Bob said, his tone softening not with sympathy, but with clarity, with truth. He let the moment hang. Then he added, quietly, I'm questioning what you choose to do with it.